Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome back, Sixers, to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. This is episode 119, and today is September 26th, 2022. I'm Bill, and I'm joined, as always, by my lost co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. And we've been lying to you. You see, last time we told you we were going to be talking about chasm fiends, but we've entered the final days before another Cosmere work is released, and that means that Brandon has started dropping preview chapters. So tonight, instead of talking about chasm fiends, we're going to discuss the prologue as well as chapters 1 and 2 of The Lost Metal.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, guys. How are y'all feeling?
Good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Now, of course, remember in particular that the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast, and it's in episodes like this one where that is more apparent than ever. So if there's something in the Cosmere, especially in Mistborn Era 2, but not necessarily limited to that, you haven't read and you're worried about hearing spoilers, we recommend reading those first, then coming back and joining the discussion. Now, fortunately, there's not a whole lot that you have to read. We've got a prologue and 2 chapters. So go read those, come join us, because this is the fun time where we get to read stuff and really start speculating on where the heck is Brandon going with this.
Yeah, this is my favorite part of pretty much any type of content I consume, but especially Brandon's books.
Mm-hmm.
The speculation right before
we're in the early season of the show where like the first 2 episodes are going on and have happened, and everybody's just like, okay, where's this going? What's happening? What's coming up?
Who's going to be the bad guy? What's going to be the thing? Yeah, it's
I hope it doesn't all end in a church.
It always ends in a church. Now we do want to remind our listeners who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube after the fact that it's possible for you to join us live via chat as we record each episode at www.twitch.tv/innkeeperstable. We record episodes every other Monday night starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So please join us, take an active part in the discussion. Give us stuff to play off of because it's really fun. It really helps us actually as we see your speculations in chat because it helps us lead us to additional stuff. So please join us for those in the future. We would love that. The Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. The show will, of course, continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, head on over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. Drop us $1 or $2 per episode, whatever that is. And it really helps us out as we work to improve the show and build things up. Patrons do get immediate access to our Discord channel, where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with other listeners, as well as with us. We've got a great community. We've got some awesome discussions. You'll also get early access to bonus content, exclusive access to other bonus content, or early access to bonus episodes, exclusive access to other bonus content.
You're doing great.
And other good stuff. Now you hush. I'm talking to Jordan, not to our listeners. You can do whatever you want because, I can't even hear you. So
yeah, it's a one-way communication. It'd be really awkward otherwise.
All right. Actually, I just told Jordan to hush, but now I'm going to ask him to talk because it's time for him to tell us how his Cosmere reread is going.
So we did an experiment.
Yeah.
The episodes and coasts, but Bill's not the only one making mistakes because while it was a ton of fun, the whole idea of the call-in show was to see if it would cut down on my editing, and it went longer than one of our episodes normally go. It was a ton of fun.
To be fair, you lined up several guest hosts for guest callers and stuff. So
2, but
was it just 2? I thought
it was just 2.
I thought you had a bunch who were on.
Nope, just had 2. But it was a ton of fun. But for purposes of the read along, we won't be doing that again because I'm still editing that thing. And yeah, good times. But so going forward, we'll be going back to our old format of one a week. Going forward, it's going to be pretty condensed because of the delay that happened in the middle. So we're going to be doing prologue in part 1 of Bands of Mourning, then part 2. We're going to split up part 3 into 2 different parts because it's a Sanderlanche, and then we'll just split up Secret History into 2 different parts.
Cool.
And then it'll be time for Dragonsteel Con.
Yeah. Well, speaking of good times, right now it's these times. Cosmere Thing of the Week. This week's Cosmere Thing of the Week is from user KQQQQ. I don't know how many. I don't want to count those on Reddit. And she has made this utterly adorable crocheted Shalon doll.
It's super cute.
It is super cute. Do you know what the word for that is? There's like a Japanese word.
Amiguri.
Amiguri?
I believe that's what it says.
I was going to guess kawaii.
Well,
I mean,
kawaii is
it's
cute.
that too.
That's what kawaii is cute.
So
literally, that's what the word is.
Anyway, this is just something that she worked on and posted on Reddit, and I saw it and I was like, yeah,
Yep.
that's adorable. That's absolutely adorable. So But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say on this. It's just cute, super cute.
It looks like Shalon if Shalon was in the Earthbound universe.
Like, I love how the hair is like kind of twisting and it looks like it's almost in the wind too. And I don't know if that's intentional or if it's just how the crocheting works that way, or because crocheting and knitting are 2 things that I don't really know how to do. But I admire it because it looks like witchcraft and it's amazing. But I really like yarn, the hair.
Taking yarn, which is essentially one-dimensional, and making it into something 3-dimensional.
I know, it's
kind of cool.
But
yeah,
there's just not much. It's just look at it. It's cute.
It's pretty.
Behold, it is cute.
If you want to find the post itself, you can go into our show notes. We've got a link in there for that as well. For Sanderson news, it's interesting. For the past 2 weeks, we haven't gotten any of Brandon's standard weekly updates, which I found surprising. He's had several videos, because he's continued to do his podcast with Dan Wells. He's put out a couple of videos about the Kickstarter that's going on for the Stormlight miniatures, which are amazing, and I'm still already drooling over them, and I haven't even gotten a chance to see them up close, just the video shots that he's got. And then we also got another video, a live stream with him and Jancy Patterson, who helped him complete the Alcatraz series. So they came on and talked about those a bunch. And he went into a really interesting conversation where apparently when he first came out with Alcatraz, he sold the first 4 books for $40,000 a piece. Meanwhile, he sold Elantris for $10,000. So he was actually starting to think, okay, so I'm going to be a middle grade author for the rest of my life. He thought that Alcatraz is what was going to save his career. He got it, like before the first book came out, there was a movie deal with DreamWorks, all sorts of stuff.
Oh man!
And so clearly, obviously, that hasn't come to fruition. I suspect the option has lapsed, but
yeah, I think
probably multiple times.
I think he said in something where he's been talking about doing the movie meetings and things like that he's like, I have all of my options back, or something to that effect.
Okay.
I think he said
it's the situation you want to be in as an author, because that means you can afford to.
You hold all the cards.
Yep.
I mean, if you're an author, that's the biggest thing is you just want to have you're not desperate for a deal. And so you can afford to wait until you hear the one that you like.
Now sometimes authors are desperate for a deal because they need it to make a living.
Money.
Yeah.
Brandon's doing okay at this point. So he can afford to be as picky as he wants.
Brandon's proven to be very business savvy.
Yeah.
And that's not something a lot of authors can claim.
Another thing that we found out, this wasn't in a video, but they sent out an email that the ticketed, there are tickets now available for some of the limited events at Dragonsteel Con. Not all of them, but all but 2, I believe, are now available. By ticketed events, they're just certain ones that you need a ticket to get into because it's limited space.
Yeah.
If you don't, they throw you out like in Indiana Jones.
Exactly. But there are two things that you actually have to pay for the ticket. So the first one is the charity Magic the Gathering draft, which is exactly what it sounds like. And the other one is new that they just barely added, and that's a Cosmere crafting workshop. And it's a $10
Just for like materials.
material fee. But I think that already might be sold out. It went up today, I believe. And
Yeah, I don't know.
I went to the website and it said 0 available. So I think it may already be sold out.
Which I wouldn't be surprised, because I mean they're making a leather vial holder for Mistborn, like little vials, and then they also, it was something else too. And I can't remember.
Well,
what it
for
was.
this paid one, there are two of them. The paid one is they're making a leather Mistborn vial, I think.
Oh, is it
Vial,
just
not vial,
vial
but a
holder?
Holder. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
this second one. There's another one. I don't know the full details behind it.
I know they're crocheting a mist wraith or something
Okay.
to that effect. Either crocheting or knitting. I don't remember, but they're doing that, and I feel sad that I don't know how to do that. But then there's also going to be a panel, and this one, or I don't know if it's a crafting thing, but I don't think this one's paid, is where you're going to make shard plate for a Barbie. So
Cool.
I'm kind of tempted to do that just because it seems funny to do that.
And then the Magic the Gathering tournament.
Just imagining the old 90s commercials. I'm shard plate Barbie.
No, but the Magic the Gathering tournament will go up on sale. I think they said like mid October, not November. Don't wait till November. You will be too late.
Definitely.
They said like early to mid October. Keep an eye out for that.
Do you think that everyone will assume our table is where they register for the Magic the Gathering tournament again?
Just because we were right next to where they register for it last
I know.
time. No, we're not. Unfortunately, not next to the Lightweaver Foundation this year.
That was kind of nice.
That was really cool. We got to chat with a few of the people there, including Brandon's sister, who was really, really nice. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that. The Magic the Gathering tournament, I am betting you, will sell out in minutes, if not
really fast.
Like, so if you'll want to be on top of that, if that's something you want to do. And if you are going to be at the convention, stop by our booth because we're going to be there.
Yeah. On that note, a lot of you at the last convention gave us your email addresses. And so we'll be using those. We'll be mailing you guys out and just seeing general who all is going to be back again this year. And if you respond, we'll keep you on that list and tell you as we're trying to figure things out, because everything's up in
Salt Lake.
Yeah, up in Salt Lake, and it's also and we're still trying to figure out what we're going to be able to do is in terms of
meeting.
Yeah, meeting up with people and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. For a meetup.
We need to make sure we need to try and make that happen. The problem is the timing. I don't think it is going to be easy because of
no, it will not. So, but at the very worst, we'll find a corner of the convention and we'll just hang out there.
Because I mean, there are gaps for a meal, so I mean, we could always just meet to eat there or something.
It's just one of those things. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. If you're going to be there though, and we even if we haven't emailed you, email us at cosmerestudies@gmail.com. Let us know, and we'll try and figure out.
Or message on social media at the Cosmere Study ones, and we'll make a note of it. And
the more of you we hear from, the more likely we'll be able to actually create, plan something.
Indeed. There was one more bit of Brandon news related to Moonbreaker. Apparently, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, he's going to be doing a lore presentation for the game. So I'm very interested in that. Unfortunately, it's right in the middle of when I'm
normally streaming.
But
so maybe your stream is a reaction stream.
We'll figure something out.
But yeah, so definitely check out that stuff. All right, so we have got a new Cosmere book coming out, and it's been a little while since we got one of those. It's been about 2 years since we got a new Cosmere novel.
That's Rhythm of War, yeah.
So we start off with the prologue, which, okay, guys, this was one of the most wholesome and lovable and beautiful things until the last sentence.
And you knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming.
You knew it.
Yeah.
I love wholesome and lovable in the middle of all the swearing that that little
I
Wayne
love it,
did.
yeah. Oh,
Normal
yeah.
turds then.
Oh, it was so great.
I don't know who Doug is, but I want Doug to come back. I want to find out what he became later in life.
I don't know that I want to find out who Doug became because we haven't heard anything about him lately. So something bad may have happened to Doug.
I want to know, was Doug the 9-year-old?
Doug was
Yeah.
the 9-year-old.
Okay. I kept thinking his name was something else. But yeah.
It also, for me,
Hello.
I had a friend named Doug, spelled D-O-U-G, growing up, and Doug was very scrawny but smart and knew things. And so just every time you mentioned Doug, I'm just imagining my old friend Doug with his bowl haircut and the one hoodie he would wear no matter the weather. And I'm just like, Doug.
I love this prologue because it gives us a look into Wayne's mind. Like, I mean, yes, we've gotten a couple of, I think, at least one chapter from Wayne's perspective.
Oh, we've had a ton.
But this gives us some development. Like seeing where Wayne was back when he was a kid, where he came from. And it's really interesting because he reminds me so much of a friend of mine. And just in his, because Wayne is not slow.
No.
It's easy to make that assumption when you first meet him, but he's clever in a very, very different way. He thinks so differently from most people, and it gives him a very cool insight into the way a lot of things work. You know, the assumptions that he makes and the logical jumps that he makes, and seeing it particularly in 11-year-old Wayne's perspective, you follow his train of thought of how he got from A to B to cucumber.
Yeah.
You know, because
it just works in his head.
The-
And I love his mom too.
Oh, she is so good.
She is so amazing. I'm like, I don't know how she does it, because you can tell she's starving herself, and she's having to tell Wayne these stories, and he like pops in random details, and she's like, "Yep, we're gonna go with the flow and just improv our way through the story and make it enjoyable."
She is the queen of yes and.
Yes, she's
And.
Yeah, and then Airsick Wetlander actually gave a good quote from there. "You're the wind, you're the stars, you're all the endless things." And it's just
so
like,
beautiful.
oh man.
The thing I really liked about her version of storytelling is she lets him express his weird creativity with it. And while doing so, she also, like, he's giving her credit, like, man, she's such a good storyteller. And it's like, you're doing most of the work. But it reminds me of the whole rule of, how do you have a good conversation with someone? You let them do the talking.
Yeah.
And then they think, man, what a great conversation. And she's sort of doing that. And it's what you're supposed to do with a kid. But I also like how she, as soon as she finds the cards, he stops pretending to be asleep, and then she just dumps water on him.
Well, no, she would have dumped water on him if he had continued to pretend to be asleep, is what he said.
Yeah, she didn't. No. I don't think she did.
No, she didn't actually dump water on him, but it was clear she had in the past because he had tried to pretend to be asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a good dynamic where she's trying to be a good parent, and
she's doing a killer job with what she's got.
Yeah.
But it's just the problem of the single parent, where you have to both provide and parent, and there's an issue, and it shows, like, the whole thing where he's lost people to the mines.
And he's so just waiting for the next time. And just the subtle references that he makes give such a rich backstory. Like when he talked about how his uncle was crushed, and he's like, and so he wasn't able to hit anybody anymore. And it's just like, suddenly, okay, so his uncle was abusive and he'd gone through this, and it's just like, but it's such a good show don't tell.
Yeah.
Even though it's telling in a way.
And it flows in, like, how a kid would think through it, and just like an adult looks at it and goes, well, it's like the adult looks at it and goes, well, that's not actually how it works, but he's 11, and
but not just a kid, Wayne in particular, because he does have that different way of thinking. These assumptions and conclusions that he draws from stuff are the kind of things where you're just like, wait, how would he get there? Okay, I see the path, but it's not something that most people would naturally go to. And it
But
just drives his character so well.
Well, and especially because at this point, we've known he had a rough childhood.
Mhm.
This gives us a much better look into why he ended up the way he did. It's like, okay, we
Mhm.
now know he had no one at the age of 11.
Mhm.
yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's a pretty
How,
rough go of it.
how he ended up on the other end of Wax's barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially, if he's listening to kids like Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He's for someone who's so insightful, he's also very gullible.
Well, he's very trusting. You can tell he's got some for as self-confident as he is, he also does have some self-confidence issues, it seems like. Because he hears Doug, who says something confidently, so he must know what he's talking about. Even though this kid is 2 years younger than him, and when you're 11 and someone else is 9, those 2 years make mean a whole
Big
lot.
difference, yeah.
And so he's just like, but Doug knows things.
Doug knows, yeah. If you want to know some, ask Doug.
Yeah, like the fact that once he's 11, or 12, he can go drink at the bar.
He can
Go drink at the bar, and then his mom's like, "But Doug's 9," and he's like, "Okay, well that means I have to go get it for him."
I'll have to bring him drinks then. Which
this
is such a pure thought.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing I love Brandon's nailed it the entire way. All the nicknames of all the outlaws: Blatant Barm, Gud the Killer, and my favorite, No Ways Joe.
I know, they're awesome.
But the cooler one was the River Human.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
There's always just these subtle little references to characters from Era 1.
But it made me ask questions. I'm like, wait, I thought Human died at the end of it. I mean, I just sort of assumed. How did they know to name a river Human?
I mean, Breeze would have known, and Spook may have known.
No, because all the stuff with Human was Vin and Elend only,
but Kelsier knew.
Yeah,
and he
could have talked, and he had a direct line to
let's just say
the Emperor, or not the Emperor.
Yeah, Spook was the Emperor, I think.
No, because Elend was the final Emperor, and Spook was sort of like the chief, leader, king, mayor.
Yeah.
Oh, he was Lord Mistborn.
Lord Mistborn, Grand Poobah.
Grand Poobah. He had a hat. Anyway, no, the other things, this is some of Brandon's best, like, funny writing.
Yes, I agree.
Just the whole, and it's like, he's 10 times worse than any other bandit that ever walked the roughs. 10 times? Yep. That's a lot. Almost double.
And his mom pauses and is like, do I worry about that? I don't know. I'll just let it go.
And also just regular old turds then.
No, this is some of his more clever writing. Like, there are some things where it feels like he's trying too hard. This one, there were a couple moments I felt like that, but there were a lot that flowed smoothly. And I was like, okay, you're really getting this. I'm really enjoying this. So
you have
bloody hell, Wayne. Regular old boring hell then.
Yes. Oh.
And there is a logic to it. It makes sense.
And it explains, it's nice to get the background on why he's dressing up in all these different outfits and things, and does all that.
He did the laundry.
And he's like, well, why not try it on? Because it's right there,
And it let him sort of get his head into other people's brains and figure it out. And suddenly he becomes this master of impersonation and disguise and character that we see in him later on.
We learned that he picked it up from his dad. Apparently his dad did impersonations as well.
Yeah, he did voices and stuff, but he's like, but I do it better, especially because he's not here. And it's like,
it's just like,
yeah,
dark.
Oh.
Again, show don't tell.
It's also, but it
or
also
tell
shows,
in a showy way.
It's also, it shows that Wayne's always had that gallows humor.
Oh yeah. So have you guys seen Finding Dory, the movie that?
No.
I saw parts of it.
Anyway, like the thing that got me with that one was that they explained too many of Dory's jokes.
Yes, I agree.
And so it's how you find out little tidbits about Wayne here. It was a much smoother way of doing it. And I mean, it's a prologue. It's not a whole movie. So that's one advantage
sort of like,
to it.
No, it's sort of like the complaint that a lot of people have about the movie Solo is that everything interesting about Han Solo happened in a single weekend.
Yeah.
And
And it's
so,
like there's going to be more interesting things than that. But
but yeah, it's an insight into who he is rather than an explanation of everything that led him to become who he is.
Mm-hmm.
It's expertly done.
But
nice.
But like you said, Amy, you see the end of it coming. And
yeah, you do. You're just like, oh no.
You don't see it coming as abruptly as it comes, because I didn't think, okay, this is the last conversation he has with his mom ever.
I thought it was going to be like, and she was gone in a year or something like that. Not, she didn't come home.
But it also, that's the best way to put you right in his mindset.
Well, and the other thing is, he had, a lot of people have anxieties about what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens. And that day he had the thought of, she's might not come home, and she didn't. So he was proven right.
Yeah.
That when you're proven right on that kind of thing, it can mess with your mindset.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got good reason to suspect that she may not come home.
The minds are dangerous.
Yeah.
And
which makes it feel all the worse for, all these Mistborn and these Mistings and Twinborn who are just using these metals, and it's like, how many people died for you to get that?
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming it's probably for just the less about the metal for allomancers and more for just steel.
That's probably true.
Because the railroad just chewed through steel like no one's business.
And I'm sure there's plenty of buildings that are probably using more of it too.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, this actually serves as a really good precursor to when we get to chapter 2. Because it gives you a look into the life of someone who's living out in the roughs, and there's a reason it's called the roughs. Yeah. And it's an angle that we don't get to see a lot of, because every other time we've been out in the roughs, it's, we're dealing with big problems, especially in Bands of Mourning. It's, they're trying to escape the set, and, Steris is hilariously telling people, I have plans for this. It's on page 3. But you don't see an everyday person. And this is what Brandon's really good at, is using scenes that do two things at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
But no,
yeah, that final line from his mother, though, is poetry.
Which one?
The
wind.
You are the wind, the stars, you're all endless things, I think it is.
You're the wind, you're the stars, you're all the endless things.
Yeah, and apparently she got it from a poetry book, is what I thought it said.
I want to know who wrote it. Tell me.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hoyd wrote it. That fits his style. Of course, that's because his style is Brandon's style, and Brandon wrote this. But who knows?
It's just party.
I don't know how meta to go with that.
It's Brandon all the way down.
Yeah.
I want it to be someone other than Hoyd, just because it'll be more fun if it is.
Maybe it was time traveling Wayne.
Wayne wrote it to himself from the future.
Cause effect loops. It's always fun. Okay, so let's move to chapter 1, where we start with Marasi and Wayne trudging through the sewers.
Yes.
First off, one thing that's interesting, we find from a stray thought that Marasi had, this is 6 years after Bands of Mourning, which means, and a thought from Wayne where it says he's almost 40. So this is about 10 years into Era 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'd be, because it says 29 years later, he was 11 then. So yeah, he would be 40. Yeah,
so he's 40, and he was in his early 30s in Alloy of Law. So we've these people have known each other for a while now.
Yeah, you can tell in how Marasi is far more comfortable with Wayne than she was before. Even you saw the growth before, but now she's like, yeah, I know how.
They're now partners.
Yeah. Well, and as we're keeping track of the Cosmere timeline, that gap between the first 5 books in Stormlight and the back half of Stormlight, we've heard anywhere between 10 and 20 years. So I don't know if I don't know where we fall at this point. Like, are we now into concurrent with what's going on in Stormlight, or are we just getting closer to the beginning of Stormlight back half? Or, I just find it interesting because when you go 10 years, suddenly there are things that could be happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I
don't know. That was one of my first thoughts.
Yeah.
All I know is they're trudging through
Gross.
Just
the
worst.
Mm-hmm. And I do like that, here's Marasi making the commentary where she's like, I'm glad I wore trousers today because I wouldn't even want to think about doing that with the skirt. Mm-mm.
Well, and it's cool because now we get to see Marasi as a bit more of a veteran lawkeeper, because we saw her as this eager student who's following Wax around like a puppy, and then we see her as sort of like this a rookie
finding her footing and everything.
Her footing.
Rookie who's more of a desk jockey. Like, she's there more for her mathematical skills.
But she wants to be there more for the physical.
And everything, yeah.
And so now she's actually been around for a while.
Yeah, well, because this is the point, because at the end of Bands of Mourning, she's held the powers of the Lord Ruler,
of creation,
and she was able to realize, I don't want this. Let go of how she always felt inadequate for not having her
better powers,
better powers and stuff. And so it's like she stepped over this threshold, and so now this is the perfect time. Now she is a cop, and she's a good one, and she's partners with Wayne, who apparently sometimes wears his uniform.
Yeah, just sometimes, and apparently has 3 pairs of Wax's really nice shoes. But
no,
doesn't
Wax
have his
stole
own boots
his.
But he left his good. No, yeah, because Wax stole his boots.
Yes.
I love his thought processes.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a character I played in a tabletop RPG. I can't remember what the system was, but it's just such a fun concept. The other thing we find out is that apparently Wax and MeLaan have been together for 6 years. I was not expecting that to last that long.
You mean Wayne?
Wayne.
Wax has been with MeLaan. We have a real story on our hands.
Yes, we have a. No. That's in one of the broadsheets. So.
Yeah. No.
But no. But Wayne. Yeah, Wayne and MeLaan have been together for 6 years. Of course, she's thinking of breaking up with him, and the way that Wayne knows this is because she straight up told him.
Yeah.
That's just that relationship has been, and again, the fact that it's gone on for 6 years, I find, unless she's broken up with him multiple times over the course of those 6 years.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't put past MeLaan and Wayne.
I don't know. I don't get the feeling that that's the case.
I don't either.
How despondent he is.
The thing he says, because he says she thinks she has a new job from the big guy.
Harmony's gonna.
Which, look, we've seen Harmony break up relationships between humans and Khandra for the greater good before, and maybe we know how difficult his job is.
Yeah, maybe Harmony's gonna send her on a field mission to a little planet called Roshar or something like that. Because, like I said, we're getting close to the back half.
We know there is a Khandra somewhere on Roshar.
Yes, we do. Now, there was a Khandra on Roshar in the front half, which is before Era 2, but still, I would not.
The fact that there is one.
I would love to see MeLaan show up at one of at some ball or something on Roshar in not in Kholinar, because that's occupied, but
yeah.
But one of the things I like though is just from a meta knowledge where he's just like, I think she's got a new job from the big guy, but it ain't right. How slow it's going. It's not proper way to break up with the fella. It's just like how slow it's going. It's like, you see, you don't know the meta contextual basis that you're at the beginning of a book, but we do know, so we know things ain't slow.
Yep.
But then they find a door.
Yeah, and they go down through the door.
And what do they find?
Well, we don't know that, but the door itself is pretty interesting. Like the fact that it's a metal door, and it's so it's pre-Cassandra, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I wonder if they may have found one of the stashes.
Could be.
One of the Lord Ruler's caches.
Mm.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to find the description of the door. Oh, then I remembered I can do Control F because this is a regular book.
Because you remember, Sazed pulled all of the caches together into the Elendel Valley so that the people who were hiding in them could come up and work together.
Safe, yeah.
Here it is. An old metal door set into the sewer wall. Wayne held up a lantern, and one didn't need a keen detective's eye to see the door had been used recently. Silvery scrapes on one side of the frame, the handle rubbed clean of the pervasive filth and cobwebs.
Where does it mention? I don't remember it saying it was pre-Cassandra, but I may have.
She talked about how all the tunnels down here could be pre-Cassandra.
Okay,
we're pretty old, yeah.
Yeah. She handed her a rifle, investigated the door. He blah blah blah. The door was shut tight and had no lock on the side, but it seemed that the people she was hunting had found it closed too. There were a bunch of marks along one edge. There was enough room to slip something between the door and the frame.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I always love the concept of characters that we've come to know and love becoming the ancients or the precursors that characters in another era refer to, and we're kind of seeing this.
Here it is.
Finding the ruins.
Yeah, I found it. Using the knife, she managed to undo the bar holding the door closed from the other side, so it was locked on the other end. The bar swung free with a soft clang, and she eased the door open to reveal a rough-hewn tunnel leading downward, one of the many that dotted this region, dating back to the ancient days before the Cassandra, to the time of myths and heroes, ashfalls, and tyrants.
Yeah.
Like that is it's interesting. So it was locked on the other side, so people weren't supposed to get in. But in a world where everyone has metalborn powers, it could have simply been a door that was meant to be opened by allomancers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Could be.
Well, and we know that,
because all it would take is a
steel pusher and
an iron puller to pull it up or push it up.
Coin shot or a lurcher. Well, it's sort of like Renette's guns.
Yep. Which are still the coolest guns, and I want more.
Yes, they are. Okay, before we move on to chapter 2, let's take a step back because I just remembered something that was talked about in the prologue that we didn't mention.
Oh,
is Allomancer Jack.
Oh,
yeah. The stories involve Allomancer Jack,
and Wayne's like, him.
Well, it has sort of a hipster tone to him, where he's like, everyone likes him.
Yeah, it's like Allomancer. Exactly, which kind of makes me love Wayne. It sort of gives him a little bit of the savviness because Allomancer Jack stuff, you can tell it's pulp. It's it's very Gilderoy Lockhart, where it's just like, look at all my wonderful exploits. See how great I am.
And if it weren't for the fact that we got his assistant's version of details, if you read the Pits of Altania.
I think Altania, I believe.
Oh, well, whatever it is. If we didn't get his underwriting, it would have been completely insufferable. But with it becomes hilarious.
Yes.
And so
it lets you in on the joke rather than beating you over the head with a character that's kind of unlikable.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest difference between like the pulp that we would associate it with, which was more yellow journalism era of America, where it was fictional by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, it is self-aggrandizement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Gentleman adventurer.
That's exactly what it is, though. It's like, look how amazing I am. You may fawn upon me. You may, I will bless you with my presence type character that at the time, wasn't as off-putting as it is now because it was new. It was novel. Now it's the kind of thing, we've seen this over and over and over and it never pans out. Go away. I can tell you're slimy. And
yeah.
Well, it's like we learn how to write and improve our storytelling as time goes on. I mean, you look back at some things that are classics and you're just like, wow, that just sort of tied up into a neat bow in the last 2 pages there out of nowhere. That's interesting.
Very quick resolution, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yep.
we learn, oh, because I mean, look, there's a reason Deus Ex Machina is a thing. It's because a lot of those old Greek plays just were like, man, these people are in a dire situation they can't get out of. Well, I could be a better writer, or I could literally just have a god reach down and give them exactly what they need to solve the problem.
And I think
we learned with
sometimes with the yellow sheets, whatever they were called,
The broadsheets.
the broadsheets, they were only given they were paid by the week, and so they wanted to make sure that the readers were still interested, but they also had, they were still enjoying it every time, and there probably was not 100% guarantee they would get to do it next week.
No.
Tune in next time.
So.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
But no, and so it's interesting to see how storytelling has evolved. And if I see far, it's only because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And
right. I mean, for example, you look back at Dickens, because he wrote serials this way. I mean, that's where several of his pieces came from. A Christmas Carol in particular, because he would publish in bursts and want people to come back and make it, want the newspapers to think people were going to want to come back. And so he would feed you these tidbits and leave you just enough to want more.
Yep.
And that was the way of storytelling at this time.
Well, and if you read those stories, they are very much the precursors to the modern thriller, because it would always end on a cliffhanger, because they want you to need the next thing.
Or precursors to the modern dramatic TV series. Because I feel like the perfect example for this is Lost. Because Lost always ended on the stinger, where you're sitting here thinking, okay, things are resolving, and then they give you a stinger and you're just like, wait, what?
What?
And
but
so you gotta come back next week.
Find out what's
I still think 24 is the best version of that.
24 is a great version of it.
You literally had the ticking clock at the end every single episode.
Right.
And so it lends itself to that. But
except for the few times where you got the silent clock, and usually that was when someone big died. And but and you would sometimes get that with these serial stories in the broadsheets, the newspapers, where you get a bit of a resolution, but there's still the big questions that you're waiting to be answered.
Well, and I forget what Jack's assistant was named, but Handwim might have been Handwim.
I don't remember.
Anyway, he talks about, because this is he releases his stuff after the fact. With his commentary, and he comments on the much more discerning readers prefer these to the broadsheets, and it does sort of highlight the difference between reading something that is serialized and something that is a full completed work. I get it. It's the binge versus the weekly model.
Yeah.
Handwim is Netflix.
Handerwim is his assistant. And it's the pits of Eltania. Eltania.
In IA. You're right. Okay, so you were right. I thought it was Altana.
But yeah. I don't know. It's very, but it's just one of these things that in the very fact, just because Allomancer Jack was like a throwaway joke, I think Brandon's brother wanted to do, because he wanted to have the broadsheets. I think it was Brandon's brother.
Was it Brandon's brother? I thought
Brandon's
it was
brother,
Isaac.
Jordan, who wanted to do a radio drama scripted by Brandon.
Okay. But Isaac's the one who ended up writing him, I believe.
I think that's correct. But it was just this one-off idea. It's like, oh yeah, this will be fun to put in, and now they've gotten a lot of mileage out of Allomancer Jack. So I don't know. It's fun stuff.
Well, and in the in Mistborn Era 3, we're going to get Wax and Wayne comics, which I am thrilled about. Just little snippets. We're not getting full comic books. Just little. They're going to replace they're going to replace the broadsheets. I would not put it past Brandon to make full comics.
Yeah.
I mean, with the amount of crosswork he's doing with other creators now, it's well within the possibility of him doing comics.
Yeah.
And I
But
mean, there's probably plenty of fan artists who would love
Oh gosh,
to
there's
do
tons.
it. Yeah.
I mean, like at Dragonsteel Minicon last year, he had about 10 booths of different artists who he had worked with and stuff like that. And it's just like, and those are just the ones that he had room for. So
Yeah.
no, there's all sorts of good stuff that could come of it. And
Mhm.
if there's anything we've learned from all his various Kickstarters is apparently the amount of desire for Brandon's stuff. It seems like there's just no bottom.
Just always want more.
No, it's nuts. Okay, so should we move on to chapter 2?
Politics. Yay.
First, we get a really
politics.
no politics. No, first we get a really great scene between Wax and Steris, where it's just like, okay, you know what? I thought I couldn't love them anymore, and I already love them together. But I do have one question.
No, before Amy goes. When I was reading this, I said to myself, I want to hear what sound Amy makes when she reads Maximilium. And I was not disappointed.
Oh my goodness, he's adorable.
We'll see, and I'm just like, Maximilium? Really? This is where he went? You took the first letter of his name and flipped it upside down.
It's so cute.
And
then what was the daughter's name? It was
Tyndwell.
Tyndwell.
That's right.
Because she likes traditional names.
Traditional names.
Traditional names, and I'm like, well, oh yeah, that tracks. Yeah, that'd be traditional.
Although as soon as I see that, I'm like, well, now we're gonna need another disambiguation link on the Coppermind.
Yeah, Tyndwell 1, Tyndwell 2.
There are now 2 Tyndwells.
Yep.
But you know, now they have named their daughter Beloved of Harmony. So
it's so cute.
No,
oh man,
Maximilium is adorable.
Yes.
I love how he has the drawing. He's like, it's a dog. You need a dog drawing, and Wax is like, you're right, I do. And here's a cat drawing, but it isn't very good. It looks like a
squirrel
or something, a squirrel. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right. And he takes it. It's like, oh my goodness, he's such a cute dad. Oh my goodness.
Well, and you know that Brandon pulled that almost word for word from a conversation he had with one of his kids.
Oh yeah.
Like that is so inspired by Brandon's conversations with his own kids. I have zero doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just I love Steris.
Yes, her preparations have not ended.
At the beginning of Alloy of Law, she seemed so off-putting. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten such a good look into who she is that suddenly she is absolutely just endearing.
Yes.
And I love the way that Wax interacts with her. Mm-hmm. Because he takes what could very easily be seen as a detractor or something that would make her off-putting, and he finds the good in it. He turns it into a superpower.
Yeah. But he also doesn't take advantage of her in that. He doesn't make her just do all the work. He tries to do everything, and if he happens to forget something, he knows, oh, she's got it. She's got all the double, triple checks to back him up.
And you know, she acknowledges that it's strange or unusual, but he just loves it.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Well, not to keep bringing it back to Gavilar and Navani, but this is a skill Navani has, and we see where it got taken advantage of in one, and where it's actually it's two halves making a whole in the other. It goes back to Sazed's conversation with Vin and Elend, where he talks about the key and the lock. How if you look at them, they don't, you wouldn't understand.
Nothing alike.
And in fact, the two objects do the exact opposite thing, but are both somehow useless without the other.
Exactly.
And that's what they figured out. They figured out where the other's strengths are and helping. Because they even have that conversation where he's like, you should be the one giving this presentation. No, it needs to be you. And it's like, I could do this. And she's like, no, it needs to be you. Like you're the one that this should be doing this.
You're better at this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's understanding what each other's strengths are. And it's good to just see them also just being affectionate with how cold their relationship started.
Well, I mean, in the original, like I actually started my reread today, and in the original contract, she's allowing for mistresses because this is natural. Talking about how he says, "Isn't there room for romance?" She says, "Yeah, it's on page 13," and it's like there are this many conjugal visits because the reason that her father came into this deal is he needs a male heir. And so it's just very, very cold and contractual.
Yeah.
And
'Cause
so
she doesn't
seeing
think romance exists.
and so
She hasn't
seeing
witnessed it.
the affection they have with each other is just so
And
hopeful.
you see it start really at
Mhm.
the end of Shadows for Silence, right? Because that's
Shadows for Self.
Shadows of Self.
Shadows for Self, sorry. Too many
It's
books with
Brandon's
shadows
fault,
in it.
not yours.
Mhm.
I know.
Yeah,
Anyway.
when after he kills Lessie,
Mhm.
and he just cries, and she just
She just holds him.
sits there and holds him.
Yeah, just got done with that. That was the
Yeah, that loveliness.
episode I'm still having to edit.
Oh gosh, it's just heartrending.
Yeah, but it's also nice because it's been 6 years, and so we see Marasi's growth. We see Wayne a little despondent, but also his, we learn a little bit of his growth in the 6 years.
Mhm.
The fact he's actually working with the Connors now, or for the Connors now, and sometimes
Mhm.
wears his uniform.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to see Wax and Steris's growth. We see Wax is a politician now,
Mhm.
and like he's like, if I remember correctly, in Alloy of Law, that's part of the early tension between him and his butler. His butler's telling him, even though the butler turned out to be working
Be a
for the
traitor.
set,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he seemed like he was trying to be a good guy still.
Yes.
But he had the whole discussion with Wax where he said, and he's like, your uncle used to have an issue going to the horse track and betting. He's like, and he bet it all away. He's like, no, he was actually quite good with the horses. The
Mhm.
problem was, while he was winning thousands at the track, he was losing tens of thousands each day by not being the active member of his house and helping us
Mhm.
there. And
Yep.
it's all about
Mhm.
where are you doing best. And we've seen Wax move fully from this restless, gun-toting lawman to he's now moved into the role that he needs to be in as a house lord.
Mhm.
Still gun toting, but he's
Yeah.
doing his job.
Yeah, he's taken the parts of him that were good and he's found how to make it work in
Mhm.
this new area. I mean,
Which was his
jumping ahead.
entire arc in Alloy of Law.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so
How
I was just gonna say, like, it's towards the end of it, but he talks about how it's like, you guys know me. I don't do politics right, but and it's that bluntness that if you do it often enough, people get
Mhm.
used to it.
Right.
Yeah, and I do love the little note where he has 2 safeties on his guns
Mhm.
because he has kids. So I'm like, there you go. There's that little touch that I'm sure Steris had an influence on, that it's like, yeah, you can keep carrying them, but you need to make sure they can't
Well, I
accidentally
think
go
it's more
off.
for the politicians than the
I do
kids.
too.
Well,
He keeps them to show, I'm still Waxilium
still
Ladrian.
well, yeah, but
But
I meant more the double safeties.
Yeah. Well, so I think
That's
so.
right.
This was
I agree. Even the double safeties, I think, are largely
This-
more for the politicians.
this is me being nerdy about it. So we saw with Renette that he had the Allomancer activated safeties,
Mhm.
and it's one of these things where in a world of allomancy, one safety isn't enough because someone could turn your
Oh.
safety off.
Mhm.
And
That's
so
true.
he wants the intimidation and the image that the guns present him as the gentleman, lock
Lawman.
Mhm.
and
Well,
but at
and the
same
Roughs Lawman.
yeah,
Yeah.
specifically.
Because when he's in the Roughs, he presents himself as the gentleman, but when he's in the city, he presents himself as the
sheriff.
The
Outlander.
roughest one, yeah.
And so I saw it as, okay, the last thing you want is an incident, and with all these allomancers, and especially in the most likely place for someone to be able to do something like that would be the Senate, because that's where the most highborn people would be.
Mhm.
And then on top of it, they're not loaded.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
And
and
which-
because they
Great thing, but not
like
right.
the fact that he is this rough lawman. When he first joined, they were hesitant and they sort of looked down on him, but now he's like, ooh, he's a ruffian, but he's our ruffian, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
they almost look at it as a sense, with a sense of pride. They want him there. They, you know, because he's proven himself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. At this, well,
He's
and
like
that's
flipping he's flipping the coin around that he got, to be like, yeah, remember how I did the big thing? Yeah, I did the
Mhm.
big thing.
almost started a war. Oh, so you want me to not have done the thing? Okay,
Really?
fine with you doing the thing.
Yeah, I love that he, you know, like he hears that, he's just like, excuse me.
It does seem like their version of their Senate operates more like the British
The
and
British
Canadian
Parliament,
Senate
yeah.
British
and
House of Lords and
Parliament
stuff,
than
yeah.
the U.S. Senate, where it's everyone's
Mhm.
taking their turn.
Mm-hmm.
Which, frankly, as far as an entertainment value goes, I far prefer that, just because they're literally just yelling at each other. And I don't know, maybe it's the chaos in me, but I find it
It's so
hilarious.
weird.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen many, but they always seem crazy.
Now,
Although they
one
yell
sad
at
thing,
everybody.
though, is that our friend Aradel has stepped down a couple years previously.
Which we don't blame him.
We
No.
don't blame him, but we miss it because he's one of those who's just like, he's a good one that you want to actually be in this position.
What was
While
the line? The governor's job was the type that shoot up the good people, but let the bad ones float blissfully along.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which, just from that, you're just like, okay, so violence is a bad one, and we need to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
From what we're seeing so far, he doesn't seem like he's actively corrupt the way that oh my goodness, I literally just
That
finished
other guy
Shadows of
was,
Self.
yeah.
Right.
Innate it was. He didn't seem like
Oh,
he's
that's right.
actively. He seems like he's just there. Like he just exists. He's not there to be someone
He's-
who's a force for good.
Yeah,
He's just someone to collect a check.
Yeah, he's not a traitor, or he's
an
not,
empty suit.
Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
selfish active. He's selfish lazy.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what it seems like. Who
Yeah.
knows? You know, because
Yeah.
this could
We don't know.
absolutely be a front.
I
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
could
It
be a
just
whole
I
lot
feel
more.
like Brandon's hinting that the one that we're going to be dealing with is his the vice governor, the
Which
terrorist
very
woman.
possibly.
She's a terrorist woman, right?
Yeah. Because he has the whole line. It's like he says something to the effect of, and it's like he thinks if anything's going on, because this guy doesn't do anything, so if anything's going on, it's probably her machinations, not his.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Of course, they're talking about elevating him, the governor, above all the other mayors, and I'm just thinking, you know, is this like a I am the Senate precursor? Are we, you know, are we going into Emperor Palpatine, or what's
Yeah.
going on here?
If this guy starts shooting lightning, this could be an issue.
Yeah.
Unlimited power.
Mhm.
No, what was her name? Adawathwin. Man,
Isn't it?
oh my goodness. I hope she's not an important character. I hope I'm wrong because I do not want to have to say her name.
She
Adawathwin.
probably will be.
We've got
Dang it, Brandon.
the Welsh inspired terrorist names.
Yeah.
I know this is
all
jumping
the
ahead. Who
Ys
was
and
the one that was
Ws.
friendly to Wax? He had a weird name too. It's near the
I
end.
don't remember.
I don't know.
Yancey Yakixo.
You know that's based on an actual person.
It has
that's
to,
got to
that
be
name
that's
looks
got to be a
Polish.
name insert.
That looks Polish to me. Yakixo.
Yeah, you can, because they mentioned what was her name, Michelle. She was, what was it, Yolen? Not Yolen, Yeoman.
Yeah, Yeoman.
Was it
yeah.
Michelle Yeoman, who was actually named after a person he knows? That was the wedding in the first.
Yeah, Michelle
Oh,
Yeoman. Yeah.
And I'm fairly certain that this Yancey person is named after somebody real as well, because he'll do that. He'll drop actual people
Yeah.
into these little minor roles.
It does lead to my favorite of his credits, where he's going through all the names of the various beta readers, and so many of them are people who are in Bridge 4, and then someone was, and I can't remember the name, but so we'll just use, Mike Smith, and it's just like, Mike, please don't put me in Bridge 4 Smith.
Yep. But yeah.
Wait, so she was the one with the wedding, the shootout?
Michelle, it was the Yeoman wedding.
Oh man, I missed that detail. That's a good one because she voted against the bill, and that's a good.
She's also friends with Hoyd.
Yeah,
because that's why Hoyd was in town. That's why
That's
Hoyd was
right,
on
yeah.
Scadrial at that point, was to attend that wedding.
The wedding, yep. I have to wonder, how did he get the news about the wedding?
There's a Cosmere postal service. I mean, he sent letters to all the different
I know, but I'm
planets.
like, who's delivering these letters? I don't know.
People. That's not something I'm worried about because we know that there's a whole society
I know.
based
I'm just curious who this is, but that's just me.
Yeah. We'll get a Pony Express story based in the cognitive realm for you, Amy.
I know. Did you guys
Roshadium Express?
Yes.
No, they're not in the cognitive realm. They're Roshar exclusive because they have Spren bonds.
Well, no, we saw one in the cognitive realm in Rhythm of War.
But they're still Roshar exclusive because they have Spren bonds.
Yeah, we'll make it work. Don't worry.
They can be friends. Anyway,
I want my Roshadium Express, okay? Get off my back.
Oh, I had a thought.
Okay, let me get off of that thing.
Oh, the thought is gone. Dang it.
No worries.
No, but to the actual political intrigue that they have here. This is something Brandon's been slowly building up towards throughout these books. The tensions between the Roughs towns and Elendel itself. And I love his thought of the fact that, when they founded this all, literally everyone in that entire hemisphere was in one spot because it was they were the only survivors.
Right.
And so it was something that, when they founded their town with, Spook at the head of it, they had very different problems than they do now. And it is the problem of concentrated power, especially when one side gets to put tariffs on the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of Revolutionary War. Because you have this centralized government, and then you have people who are far removed from it, but who are still being controlled by the people in this central area.
Yeah, a lot of his arguments you can find in like Thomas Paine's Common Sense. If you go to read those, you'll see a lot of echoes between that. And so, knowing what a student of history Brandon is, I wouldn't be shocked if he was trying to do
from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the simplest way to make sure people are making good, cogent arguments.
Is you look at the arguments that have been made.
Yeah, and so. Although this would be more similar to the debate that would be going on at the time in the British Parliament, considering that. And now throwing the wrench on top of it all is Wax's. Well, I guess this is more Steris's finding of the corruption of which senator was it? The one.
There was House Hastings and House something else.
House Arakel, that were the ones pulling on his strings, but
also British Parliament wasn't founded until about 25 years later. But
you're right, yeah.
But would have gone on had it existed.
Also, the Lords would have been having those arguments.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Maelstrom. Literally, his name sounds like a storm.
Not Maelstrom. Maelstrom.
Yeah, Maelstrom.
Close enough.
But just like the fact that I gotta find that line. I love it. The resting idiot had just learned an important lesson. Don't leave a paper trail detailing your corruption when your political opponent is a trained detective. Idiot.
Well, and again, this shows what a power team Steris and Wax are, because she's basically given him a loaded gun here, and he knows exactly where and how to fire it.
Well, and we saw in Bands of Mourning when they're in the train together looking for the missing 3 clips or something.
And they find it.
Yeah, they find it, and it's because he doesn't have a mind for he has the skill for it, but he doesn't have the mind for ledgers. But she does, and so when you put these two together, they're actually an investigative powerhouse together, because he has the instincts, but she has the detail work.
Yep, she can find it, he can interpret it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the
I
part.
mean, she can interpret. She can tell what's important.
Yeah,
But he
maybe
puts the
not
flair
why.
on it and presents it better
Mhm.
than she would.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it's also
Well-
he knows the criminal mind, she doesn't.
Well, and he's also been a showman for his adult life.
Yeah.
He went to the roughs and he played the gentleman lawman. He went back
Yeah.
to the city and he played the roughs
No,
sheriff.
but it was just like I liked that. You go back to Bands of Mourning because she's like, "Huh, I'm surprised you're, to me, this seems like a very similar thing."
Mhm.
And he finds out, no, she's absolutely right. It is, and in fact, we've already had this in the previous chapter because Marasi and Wayne talk about that. How they don't talk about all the research you have to do to find stuff as a lawman.
Mhm.
It's it's
So
hard
she's
work.
like, we spent a lot of time in the library, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but this is where this is a trait her and her sister share, is they both have a mind for finding the details.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And then
But
the other thing I love about that is because they're just like, well, you got to delay the vote, and the governor's like, yeah, and he's like, and
We'll just
We'll
cut out
just
those
remove
three.
them from the vote and we'll still have it.
Assuring that the vote is not corrupted, and it's like, oh no.
Which is that's something that Brandon does that I like, because you see that Wax has this well laid out plan and he's outmaneuvered. It's good to see your heroes
Yeah.
outmaneuvered, and I think that Brandon did a very good job with that.
Well, especially the thing I love is just this comment from Wax here. I have affidavits from 3 separate handwriting experts to prove it's not a forgery, Wax said, and you'll find my wife's detailed account of the letter's acquisition exhaustive and unimpugnable. And to which I just love the idea that he's like, you think you'll find this, and everyone who's in the court just like, yeah, okay, we'll take your word for it. It is Steris.
If
Yeah.
it's Steris doing it, then yeah. And I mean, they say earlier that she has like her box, and everybody's like,
Mhm.
that's her box. No one tries to take it. That's where she goes.
But the thing I love about it is, again, this doesn't even necessarily have to be political maneuvering on the governor's part. This
Mhm.
could also just be the slow, grinding, unfeeling, uncaring wheels of bureaucracy.
Mhm.
Where it's like, we don't want to delay this because we have other things we want to do with the
Mhm.
other bills. And so,
You want to go to vacation or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be.
It might just be I'm sick of him trying to outmaneuver me, because
It could be
we've
petty.
seen Brandon write that sort of thing into like the duel scene. The lady who was in charge of the duel, she was just like, you've been sidestepping all this stuff. No, I'm just going to do this to spite you. And
Yeah.
you can tell after 6 years of Wax being actively working within the House of Lords.
But not playing the game that it's supposed to be played either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because because he's come in and he's a bull in a china shop, which
Mhm.
There are times for decorum. There are times to do away with decorum. I mean, Ellen had a similar issue
Mhm.
within himself, where he started out wanting to be this fair and impartial.
He was the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he found out, no, that's like, just as Kelsier could have easily been the villain if the story was different, Ellen found out, I'm the wrong type of leader. Like,
Mhm.
we don't need this, this
Soft, gentle idealist. We need
we need
The
a
Emperor.
yeah, we need the emperor. Like, it's in him suddenly realizing the Lord Ruler had a purpose. And
He wasn't
now,
a nice guy, but
no,
he got
he
No,
wasn't a
things
nice
not at
guy.
all.
He was a horrible racist, a torturer, and all sorts of things. But it's one of those things. But there was a point to it,
There was a reason.
done.
and in the end, he did make the stores for all the horrors
yeah.
that he did. They don't save the day without him.
Yeah.
That's the horror of history. Is you go back
Mhm.
and you look, and you're just like, how much of this is built on the blood of people that come before you. Some
It
of it
doesn't-
innocent, some of it
yeah.
not.
It doesn't necessarily make what they did good, but it
No.
means that you were able to
Not
take something
wasted.
good out of it.
I always come back to a line from Game of Thrones. I don't know if it's in the book itself, but from Stannis, where he said, "The good doesn't erase the bad, neither the bad the good."
Mhm.
And it's just, it's just this whole thing of it just is.
It happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just you gotta on some level, you're just like, okay, where do we go now from this? Because Wax is dealing with that. He's like, the words of founding were great for when it was basically a bunch of pioneers, for the lack of a better term, but this is
Refugees more than anything.
yeah. And it's like, but now we're way beyond this. Like there's like, I think he said there's more people outside of Ellendale than
Yeah.
within.
Within, yeah. And it's kind of interesting. They keep bringing up the whole like, well, we're the parent. We need to be smart about it. And then Wax tries to make the plea that he's like, let's actually treat them like a good parent would. Don't just think that they're idiots. Is kind of the way it is, that you don't just stomp on your kids. You give them some grace.
And even that mindset is it's just like they're not children.
They're not.
They're fully functional adults who, it's just like, yeah, it's
Well, so
it's a rough.
Send the message that we care and are willing to listen. Yeah.
The thing that I find interesting about that is very much that's Wax's entire attitude, and Dalinar for that matter. The whole, if you're going to act like children, I'll treat you like it. And that's Wax. That's how he treated politicians in the previous books. And you're now seeing the growth of Wax. He thinks that entire argument is absolute, just it's rust and stupid. And I think he said, didn't he say it like this?
I believe the word you're looking for is Codswallop.
Is it? Man, I've never heard that one, but I like that word. Codswallop. I'm gonna have to work that into my vocabulary. Anyway, but he sits here and he tries to take their argument, and like he's trying to work towards a diplomatic solution, which that is not the Wax that we know. Wax did not come to diplomatic solutions. Wax's power base is about coming in and shoving everything out of your way.
Yeah.
But now he's trying to find diplomatic solutions.
And I mean, he did. I liked his arguments, but it's just the problem of they don't care enough. They just want to do what they want to do. And
this is something they do a lot of this in Stormlight Archive with what Yasna's talking about how at times of great upheavals out the time that you can make a lot of change because people are making changes anyway. We're seeing the opposite here. The upheaval has not happened yet. He's trying to avoid it.
Right.
And meanwhile,
prevent it.
Meanwhile, you have these politicians who feel cornered because the way that things have been going is what's getting upset. And so what you're running into is again the entropy of and the entropy and inertia of bureaucracy. They're comfortable with the way things are. They don't want to see it change. Like it doesn't even have to be.
Are fine. They're benefiting off of how things are, and they don't want to lose that income.
And it's a very simple thing. And it's like it doesn't even have to be that nefarious. Humanity is lazy. We like things the way they are. Changing things is scary because we don't know what will happen if you change it. And from the politician's perspective, if they change things, that could be bad for the various constituents. If we take the more favorable view of it, and they're thinking of their constituents and not just keeping their seats of power. Which, let's be real, that's probably because humans are inherently selfish. They're thinking about, what does this do for me? But even with that, we see that it's very close. The final vote of 122 to 118. So it was a 4-vote difference.
Yep.
And just
which means if he'd swung 3 votes, it would.
Which he needed his time, and he didn't get his time.
Yep.
And I love that final line. The bill passed, his stomach fell further. If Wax was going to stop a civil war, he'd need to find another way. And then this isn't even touching on the fact that they have tensions with the Malwish people, and the Set and Trell are lurking somewhere in the shadows.
but they
Mhm.
haven't been able to prove that they're there because they lost their proof. And
Yeah, because
so
they mysteriously blew it up in a freak dynamite
they went
accident.
boom. Yeah.
Yep.
Couldn't have happened to a
Oh,
nicer
boy.
guy. But the other funny thing, just echoing this, is I love how, in a lot of ways, his paranoia that he had seeing the set behind every single stone.
Mhm.
Marasi has inherited some of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she witnessed it, so it's
Yeah.
gonna
I mean,
be there.
to be fair, it's like the famous line: "Are you really paranoid if they actually are out to get you?"
Yeah.
Or are you just being careful?
Yeah. And so I like that we see, because in some ways Marasi's more self-actualized, but in other ways she's becoming a lot like Wax.
Yeah.
Well, she's probably learning from him, and
Yeah. Oh, I mean, she studied him for years. How can she not?
oh yeah,
And now she's
And-
working with Wayne. She literally has stepped into Wax's shoes.
Well, and
Yeah.
she's also, he's her brother now. Like
Yeah.
he married her sister.
Mhm.
So it's clear that they're going to rub off on each other at this point.
Now,
I mean, they're 10 years
Yeah.
into their friendship.
now
So.
I gotta admit, I bet
Or almost.
who do you think is the better aunt/uncle, Wayne or Marasi? Because let's face it, Wayne is
Ooh.
an uncle.
Define better.
That's
Wayne's
my
gonna
point.
be the more fun one. I'm sure Wayne's more fun.
Like, from whose perspective?
From the only perspective that matters, the reader's perspective.
Oh, then Wayne. So, he's going to corrupt poor Maxilium and Tindwyl.
See,
Like, I mean,
but
he's probably already got it done. They probably adore him.
I could see it would be adorable to see a scene where Wayne is trying to corrupt them, and they're like, "No, but this is how you're supposed to do it."
So to that point,
Actually, MeLaan is probably the best one.
Oh yeah.
I have a nephew, and he's very by the book the way he does things. And we were at a restaurant together, and he's like, "What's your favorite food?" And I'm like, "Well, number 1 is shrimp, number 2 is steak, and number 3 is shrimp again." And he's like, "No, shrimp can only be on there once." And I'm like, "Okay, no, but hear me out. Number 1 is shrimp, okay? Number 2 is steak, but number 3 is shrimp again because I love it that much." No, you can't do that. And I see Wayne and Max, that's their relationship is because Max seems to take a lot after his mother. I see
Mhm.
Wayne trying to tell him all his insane theories and him being like, no,
No, Uncle Wayne. That's
stop
not how
being
it goes."
insane.
Mm-hmm. See, and I also see, I see MeLaan, though, as the one who they're looking, and she sees them thinking and trying to decide what to do, and she just leans over to him and she just goes, "Do it." Because she knows that they're trying to decide whether they should do something that they're not supposed to, and she just looks at him and she's like, "Do it."
I also think it'd be cool. I think she also strikes me as one that they'd be like, "Do the thing," and she'll do some weird conjure thing,
Like pull a rib out or whatever. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can.
like pull her hand off, or
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I mean, everyone had the uncle
do
that
that.
said, "Pull my finger," and she can, flay her skin open.
Mhm.
Not creepy at all. Oh.
It's to a kid, it's that weird. Kids they have that weird fascination with
Mhm.
things that gross them out, and so I
and
see
the uncles
having
are the ones who tell them.
yeah, and so I see having a Chondra around who likes to do stuff like that as being the
Mhm.
ultimate. Now I'll never forget this. When I was a kid, I saw a guy with an eye patch at our church, and
Oh no.
I'm just like, "Why do you have an eye patch?" And he's like, "'Cause I'm missing an eye." And I'm like, "No, you're not." Like, just because as a kid, I'm like, I'd never heard of that. And he goes, "Hmm," and he lifts the eye patch, and there's an empty eye socket, which is it. Just me as a kid, I'm like, "Ah!" And I didn't. I kind of just walked away because my brain was like, "Oh wow, oh that backfired."
I'm sure other kids had done that to him before, so he's probably.
Well, the
not
weird
at all
thing is, I'd
surprised.
never seen him before, never saw him since. He must have been a random visitor, and so
You never know, yeah.
he doesn't know it. But he left an impression on young Jordan.
Mm.
You've never forgotten him.
Nope, never.
Oh man. Well, guys,
I don't think I
This
met
is-
Odin, Airsick Wetlander. I don't think that's true.
guys, I'm excited. We've got 2
Yeah.
chapters, and I'm just like, there's gonna be so much.
We don't have time to talk about it, but have you read like the little blurb thing they give about it? There's fun tidbits in there too.
The little blurb thing.
The
Like
blurb?
when they give a little hint about the book or whatever. Like usually like on paperback, so it would be what was on the back of it.
Okay.
Is
saw
it
that.
what, for years the frontier lawman turned big city senator Waxilian Meladrian? Is that the?
I
thing
think
you're
so.
talking
It
about?
like it was on. I think because I pulled a picture up to get the cover, and Amazon had the
Huh.
little blurb.
No,
so,
I haven't seen the blurb.
so it looks interesting. But we
Okay.
don't want to go more. But it's
Dive into
interesting
that.
tidbits there. Yeah,
We'll save that for another
for later.
episode.
Yeah.
We'll devote an entire episode to the Amazon blurb.
Oh man.
All right. Well, we love hearing from our listeners, so please keep sending in questions. You can ask us about the Cosmere. You can drop us your ideas for topics you'd like us to discuss during the show. Right now, we're having there's stuff happening, because we've got the Lost Metal coming up, and we've got Dragonsteel coming up, and then we'll have the State of the Sanderson, and then of course thus begins the year of Sanderson.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully, as we get emails from you and stuff, we'll be able to work your ideas in, or we might do a brief moment at the end of an episode or something. But just as a heads up, even if you don't hear us answer your question immediately, we are reading those emails and we're setting them aside and keeping track of them. So please send us your questions, your ideas, the topics you want us to discuss, etc. We've gotten a few.
Yeah, especially if they're going to be topical to, look, at this point, we're now sort of in the Sanderlanche of real life, because we're going to be reviewing these all the way to Lost Metal, and then Lost Metal is going to lead right into the year of Sanderson. So buckle up, kids. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
We may have some more rush reads like we did with Rhythm of War. Fortunately, they're not going to be 1,400 pages long. So
yeah, it'll be a little gentler.
Someone, could you clip Amy's expression when Bill said that? her eyes went wide.
Yes, it was so many pages. It was amazing, but it was so many pages.
Well, it's because it also came right on the edge of having to power through Dawn Shard as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it was so much reading.
Well, plus it was right before Thanksgiving, and just all sorts of everything was happening. It was going down.
Thankfully, this book's coming out right before Thanksgiving this time, not a pre-book is coming out before Thanksgiving and then a real book after.
Yeah. But anyway, just please keep writing us, letting us know your ideas, send us questions, give us feedback, suggestions, anything, in a brief, concise email at cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and we'll get to that as soon as we can. You can also send physical mail to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. Amy, should we get you a story about who delivers those letters?
No,
okay. So just Cosmere.
We're good.
My stuffed unicorn Larry. It's the Larry Express.
Nice. The Unicorn Express. I like it.
Nice.
Now, outside of the podcast, we do have our own personal projects. Amy, why don't you lead us off and tell us what you have been up to and where we can find your stuff?
So my socials are Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long. My Instagram is @coincidence_cosplay. My TikTok is @coincidencecosplay, all one giant word. And my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. My website might get a little weird because I'm going to try and switch it over to my husband's server instead of using the one I am, because it costs a lot of money and I'm not make any money on my website, so I'm going to try and do the free version with my husband. But so this last weekend was FanX in Salt Lake City, and it was tons of fun. I got to meet Cosmere Studies again. They remembered who I was. I had to remind them because I was
You
late
got
at
to
Tremaine
meet
at the time.
who again?
Cosmere Studies, or sorry, wow,
I'm like,
cinema
I was like,
therapy.
okay.
Cinema therapy. Oh my goodness. It's been a
I
long
was so
weekend.
confused.
I'm like, Amy,
I did-
neither one of us were there, so what are you talking about?
But I was meeting myself. It was great.
We've been preempted.
No, it
Amy's
was so
got
much
mad
fun.
with power. She is the Cosmere Studies.
No, so I got to meet Thomas Estrada. He did some illustrations in Prince of Egypt and The Emperor's New Groove and a whole bunch of other The Road to El Dorado, a bunch of other stuff. So like just really fun. And I met some people who were also interested in the Cosmere and told about the podcast. So hopefully we have new people there. So if you met me at FanX, then hi, it's me again. So I took some pictures. So I'm probably going to put some more pictures up of people that I saw in costume.
Did you get that
which was,
pattern you were telling me about earlier?
Yes, I will put up the picture of pattern because I think it's the same pattern that I saw before, and there was a Shalon with them, but I think they upgraded
she's phenomenal.
And so I think the pattern upgraded their face because it had like a flat, like cool design, but then it also had one that was like 3D poking out too. So
Nice.
that was really fun. But no, I mean it was just a blast. And the other really cool thing is the person my friend that I was going with, she's on the Cosplay Hall of Fame. So I got to be backstage just hanging out on the couch that all the celebrities signed during the cosplay contest. So that was
nice.
Pretty cool.
Very nice.
I was like, I'm really allowed to be back. And they're like, yeah, you're totally fine. Like all the other Hall of Famers are like, yeah, you're tight. You can come in. And I'm like, okay. I'm benefiting from nepotism. It's great.
Nice.
So yeah, so the FanX was a blast, but it was exhausting because I was there for like the whole time. But I'm going to put up lots of pictures about that. And so it's probably going to be like FanX spouting like all the cool stuff. So that was my weekend. It's great.
Cool. Jordan, how about you? What do you got going on these days?
When I'm not editing a giant episode that was a big mistake on my part, just big mistake. But a ton of fun at the same time, as sometimes that's how it goes. I'm also over on YouTube, where you can just find me, Splice Stream, rhymes with ice cream. We're doing a lot of Amiibo content because the Professional Amiibo League has started, but more importantly to people who aren't into Amiibo, we have restarted a series that we jokingly had a long time ago called Splice After Dark that sometimes would happen after the stream, and I would play games. We are coming up on playing more Final Fantasy 14, finishing up Psychonauts 2, and when it finally comes out, Persona 5. I have not played it at all. Everything I know about it is basically from Smash Brothers. I don't normally play RPGs, but literally everyone I know, including people who don't like RPGs, gush about this game. And I have seen the menus, and even the menus just ooze style. And so I'll be doing that. So if you're interested, please go follow me over on Splice Stream. Just give it a little subscribe. You might like it. Also, I just want to give a formal thank you to Bill, who sent me the link to the word Codswallop. The formal definition being nonsense. Example sentence. I think that's a right load of old Codswallop.
Codswallop. I always think of it as a piratey word. I don't think it is.
It's very piratey. Sounds very
actually
piratey.
I don't think it came about until the 1960s or so.
Man.
But it just feels piratey.
It does.
It's more rednecky. So
man,
but,
this is a good word. I'm glad you've introduced this into my life. It's not as good as Supra pre-anti-penultimate, but it's pretty good.
You're welcome. As for myself, I do have another podcast where I talk about board games with my friend Dylan. We've got more episodes out of it now than we do of this podcast because it comes out every week instead of every other week, and it's a lot shorter than this one because it's
just
like
a little
anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes long, which is why we're able to come out with it weekly. Our most recent episode, we did another Spiel des Jahres or Game of the Year spotlight. We talked about the 1986, I believe, winner, which is called Top Secret Spies or Heimlich and Company. It's come out under a couple names. And then the next episode that's coming out this Friday is FOMO in gaming. A lot of it centers around crowdfunding. because I have discovered I have a
Yeah, I was
big
gonna-
problem with
How are
this.
you going to limit that to 10 minutes? I don't know.
It's very, very topical for me because oh my gosh, I have a problem. And Brandon is a part of that problem because this miniatures thing I'm having trouble with. But yeah, so you should
Be
check
strong,
that
though.
out.
Be strong.
Be strong.
But yeah, you should. So y'all should check those out. Again, it's the Innkeeper's Table. Definitely worth checking out. In my personal unbiased opinion.
I'll second it. It's worth checking out.
Well, thanks. For those of our listeners who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become a patron just yet, we would love it if you would just let your friends know about the show. Spread the word. Let them know about us. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, and then, of course, like and subscribe over on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. And if you toss us a good review wherever you listen, that would be amazing too. Also, you can head over to store.streamelements.com/Cosmere Studies, and you can buy SICS merch. We've got shirts and cups and phone cases and all sorts of great stuff over there. So
no one has bought the giant blanket yet. I want someone to eventually do that.
Yes.
It looks very comfortable.
All right. Well, before we close things out, final thoughts on these 3 chapters.
I just love it. It's great seeing all the different growth from the characters.
It bothers me how happy and warm and fuzzy Brandon can make me, even when I know he's about to shatter my heart.
I know, with Wayne's mom.
That's okay. He followed it up with Max. So
I know, but it's still.
Yeah, but he named him Maxilium, and I'm still not sure how I feel about this.
I just think it's adorable. That's just gonna go.
I do love that the daughter is
cats that
Tidwell.
look like squirrels.
It's so cute.
But yeah.
I just realized I need to add a cat that looks like a squirrel to the Koloss Head Munching Day cards this year.
I love it. Well, special thanks to our patron producer, Mim's Laundry Service, Rust and Ruin. Yeah, we can mend that. In addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the profile @Cosmere Studies. Our next episode topic depends on a few factors, actually. If Brandon drops more preview chapters in that time, we will definitely be discussing those. And if not, we will try to get to the topic we were going to discuss this week, which is a look at Chasm Fiends and what's going on with them. Which will it be? Find out during the live recording on Monday, October 10th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time at 10:30 p.m. Eastern at www.twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table and be a part of the live discussion. Until then, though, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember, there's always another secret.